Hey guys, it's Kusi. In this episode we are once again fully playing the Mistweaver talents and we are going ham on everything plus 16 and above. We do have our pretty stacked vault to open, and also we will have a little more detailed deep dive into the bosses and their mechanics, at least for those bosses that require us to play proper, such as Brackenhide, also Infusion and Underrot. Are you ready? Let's go! One little thing before we start. If you are confused about why this is a 7th episode already, my latest video, the 6th episode, unfortunately didn't get picked up by the algorithm to a point where it wasn't even showing for subscribers. So if you're one of the unlucky ones that didn't get to see the last video, I highly recommend you to check it out. Here's a quick teaser. You really missed out if you didn't see it. Anyways, because it's reset day, we have our vault waiting with a pretty big chance of granting us a serious upgrade, as well as a Dragonflight dungeon weekly quest that we will just finish passively as well. And this week we got an actually incredible set of choices. Abyss mainhand as well as Abyss offhand from Raid. Two set pieces that are actually both pretty substantial item level upgrades to our current gear, so this one wasn't too easy to think about. But because I already upgraded both of our weapon slots to 437, this would mean that either weapon slot is only a 4 item level upgrade. And with that, I went for the obvious late game choice of going for the 441 set shoulders, since I can push them to 447. By getting done with the vault, let's step into our first key this week, House of Infusion 16. In this week's rotation, we have Afflicted returning once again, and if you remember, this affix occasionally summons either 1 or 2 ghosts that beg to be dispelled or healed up full. And I'm really happy to announce that it seems like people finally caught up to the mechanic, and I had plenty of DPS or tanks dispelling the affix too. The second affix this week is the first one for this journey. With bolstering, every dying trash mob will buff the surrounding mobs with a 20% damage increase. This effect stacks, so the more mobs die, the more powerful the remaining will become. But because this got nerfed and no longer also increases the HP as well, the priority of the target changed. Now you just want to nuke the mobs that are the most lethal and no longer the ones with the most HP. Coming into the first boss of all, we need to watch out for one major spell. Static Surge is a straight up ticking AoE damage for the entire party that will tick 4 times to do some serious damage. We can use Shadow's Gift or GG easily to keep the party top for most of the duration. And even though we had one cast of an afflicted mob go through at the end, mainly because I didn't see it at all, we still managed to finish the boss easily. Next up, we got the Goper. Double G, the Goping Goliath. This bad boy also has 2 damaging AoE abilities similar to Static Surge. Right when the fight starts, he will use Overpowering Croak that not only does the mentioned AoE damage, but also summons little froggies that you surely experience on the way to the boss. And because he's using Gulp really quickly after, I always try to make sure the frogs are stacked under him and stunned, so the boss itself just consumes them all. Unfortunately, one player also has to stay in the Gulp, otherwise the boss will enrage and gain a fat damage increase. Usually this is the tank's duty, since it doesn't really hurt them at all. Toxic Effluvia is the other AoE damage he dishes out, which you can't really avoid, so try to top the group as much as you can. On this specific attempt, the ability dealt a bit more damage due to the enrage on the boss. And even though the tank didn't soak the second gulp either, which led to the boss getting another enrage sack, we killed it regardless. Though I honestly had to sweat a little with doing the healing and also taking care of the afflicted ghost. Charging on Tyrannical is always a pain, due to the consistent damage that plagues the entire party. And I really could feel the extra healing from ancient teachings after the most recent buff to Mistweaver monks. I had to step up here and make sure everyone gets out unharmed, and for our advantage, Shadow's Gift is a game changer on a boss like this. We finished the boss with still a good amount of mana and close to 100k HPS. But now we got to the point where I lost my mind last episode, which needed me to focus up in order to prevent a replay from that horrendous event. But because everyone played it nicely and because it's not fortified, we breezed through this. Final boss also no problem, and with even having to run the intermission twice, we still 2-chested this one. Only 21 rating, but it's better than nothing. I quickly checked the dispel stun for this run, and I only saw what I felt like already in the run. People were dispelling left, right and center, so I thanked them. Just as much as DPS should appreciate healers more, I feel like healers should appreciate the DPS more that actually play the mechanics. Surely this encouraged them to keep going. Hello. I'd like to take this quick break to inform you that if you enjoyed this video, you could show it by hitting the like button or even leaving a sub. It is for free after all, and you would make your boy really happy. Thank you for your attention. Now back to the video. Second dungeon for today will be a 16 freehold, and as the name suggests, it was pretty free. Though granted, the first pull on bolstering is always a joy, considering if the timing is bad and the enforcer gets a shout off with 10 stacks of bolstering, things will go south pretty quickly. But we escaped that fate and quickly made our way to the first boss with ease. And even though the game really wanted to show you again what happened last week, this time I wasn't triggered at all. Yeah, right, play the clip. No, not that fool again! But in all seriousness, I enjoyed this a lot more than last week. I know, shocker, right? The second boss went without any issues, but Shark Boy, well, a lot of us, me included obviously, had some issues when it came to dealing with the little charge from the boss whenever he picks up one of the sharks. And because we had those issues throughout the fight, we had to finish the boss with only 3 of us remaining. On the last boss, I will only remind you to take care of the whirling daggers that tick on the entire party for a good amount of damage after he gets to phase 2, which I believe is 66%. That hurts, so use at least something like Shadow's Gift for that. After that I got into a 16 Brackenhide, which I was really excited about. Mainly because now I can see for myself how the first boss feels on Tyrannical. But before we get to that, my tank thought he will put me through some punishment to, you know, test me. I want to remind you that in Brackenhide, there's a lot of trash that actually just randomly attacks party members. 9 out of 10 would think that pulling too much here isn't the best idea. Unfortunately, that 1 out of 10 is a tank I was with, because the first pull was wild. At this point, the normal attacks from the crossbow mob just killed us with 1 blow. I just put that into the I won't die, so take care of yourself category of pulls the tank occasionally like to do. But maybe he just forgot its bolstering. Nah, I don't think he forgot. But hey, he's actively dispelling the affix, so I won't complain. The only worry I had was mana, since I only had 2 water left to drink up. After freeing all 5 NPCs, we are finally ready for the boss. As a reminder for you, there are 2 main things we as healer need to look out for as soon as possible. Gash Frenzy, which will be used pretty much on pull, will target random people, damage them and put a bleed on them that will be removed when healed above 90%. In order to prevent the most harm, we will use GG right away for the 75k shield it gives to the party, while using Shadow's Gift to top everybody up. Pretty quickly after that, Marked for Butchery will be used by the same Null, with which he will try to assassinate one player. And since we don't rely on others using their stuff, we just cocoon the affected target. In this specific situation, the rogue got targeted by it and also got hit by Earthbolt beforehand, which made him drop pretty low. But with me using cocoon and him using evasion, he pretty much took 0 damage. After that, we only watch out to dispel the tank from decaying senses as soon as we got out of the mind controlling totem, so the tank can soak the charge. And with that, we rotated through the boss's mechanics. Fortunately, GG and Gash Frenzy line up pretty much, so we will have it up for the next round again. From my experience so far, if you actually use cooldowns on the Gash Frenzy whenever it's used to top the party almost instantly, you will have a very easy time playing this boss as a healer. If you lack the healing to heal up people quickly, this will be an issue in the long run for sure. Slowly but surely we killed them off 1 by 1, so we start our way to 3 more. And because this one is rather simple, but takes some time on Tyrannical, I only tell you this. Every time he tries to suck the party in, someone has to stay in it. Usually this is the tank's doing, but he will keep a debuff on you that will have you take more damage from the ability next time. So ideally you want to rotate. Even as a healer you can take it no problem, because you can still heal while being consumed. Use a damage mitigation and you're set to survive. Gutshot like usual, no issues, just kite the doggies into the traps. But the last boss almost gave me issues. To be fair, I didn't start on full mana here, but the boss fight itself drained me pretty quickly. I probably shouldn't try to heal the tank up after Decay Strike, since the Guardian surely can heal himself up from that, but I guess that's just my form of autism, so don't judge me. Lucky for me, we managed to kill the boss pretty quickly after I had to chuck a mana potion, and after killing 1 more mob, we also gained 31 rating for 2-chesting this one. And I got to be honest, even though I didn't feel like I did much, getting praised for good healing doesn't feel too bad. Ullerman 16 is next, and for all of you that have been watching for a while, you know I won't get tired of telling you about Talondras. But first, we went to Brommark, and even though the only incoming damage is when the totem is up, I still had to use Shadow's Gift with another cooldown like GG or Revival to top the party. Though at least now I'm getting more trust into the heal mechanics of Fist Weaving, since it does its job, as you can tell. Dwarves were no big issue, so we skip right ahead to the mentioned heal check in form of Talondras. But not before I show you this funny little wipe that I believe Boomkin Starfall called upon us. Ah well, we managed to kill them instead of resetting, though we did lose a little bit of time. On the boss, we focus on the earthen shard affected players, and the party health before stomp. Occasionally, I even used a technique that one of you taught me by using Thunder Focus Tea into Enveloping Mist for an instant heal and a big hot. And guess what? It worked. We also had one more mob with us that was there for half the fight, which tried to annoy us even more. But the real issue started when the boss was able to cast Satanic Empowerment. Granted, I would have been able to use leg sweep in order to prevent it, but I absolutely forgot about it when I was in the middle of the fight. Fortunately, this was rather close to the end of the fight, so only 2 of us died and we could finish the boss. Last week, Emberon had me a bit worried if I'd be able to heal this on Fistweaver, not even to mention it's a tyrannical week. But here I really saw that fist weaving is absolutely pumping. So we finished this boss rather quickly after the intermission. And the last boss proved to be more of an obstacle than I remember. Trying to stay in range of everyone by using dispels on the debuff, but also on the ghosts, having to heal some of them at full HP, this was very chaotic, but thankfully we managed to kill it. I praised my party for using dispels too, so they know I've seen it. At this point we managed to get our 4 dungeons done, so we finished this weekly quest event and we are granted a heroic value item from the raid. And of course, I get the very same belt I already have, but I'm better. Not the best, but not the worst as well, so we take that surely. The last dungeon of this week will be in Underrot. Since I know you guys missed the torture, adventure that is Underrot. And this one started off pretty cold on the first boss. Because apparently the first boss is a bit harder than I expected. Here's also where our balance druid died, and I show you this so you can understand my point later on. He just stayed in the obvious AoE that is easily avoidable. Just remember that. One more death and a CR later we finished the boss, and that was already a rodeo. And because we didn't use Lust, mainly because we have no class to do that, we went right ahead to do Crackmore with drums. And boy did the druid talk a lot. Because things weren't perfect, he kept complaining about the smallest things. For example, here I'm clearing the maggots on the other side of the room, and here he complains about me not being fast enough in the right position. After that, I foolishly died to a charge because I rather watched for the ghost, but I should have been more aware there for sure. We managed to kill it at the end, and this is where the druid just started to complain a lot. Would be a shame if someone caught him on camera failing a pretty easy mechanic, wouldn't it? Next boss, and at this point, one would clearly assume that the priest is new to this game, or at least the class. And honestly, I'd appreciate if he or she would just say that beforehand, so one could give a quick explanation of the mechanics. But yeah, upheavals were failed, so Revival had to carry the first harvest. Yet shortly after, 2 of our DPS died to not dodging the spores. And big praise to our tank here, who just played this whole thing like an absolute chat. And you could guess it, the balance talked shit right after again. And he's even that good that I had to dispel him being feared more than once on the last pack of the dungeon. What an absolute example of a player, am I right? Last boss went rather uneventful, but after the boss I realized the actual funny things about this. Like I mentioned earlier, clearly the priest was a newer player to this, didn't dispel and afflicted once, had the lowest healing done of all, even though we're talking about Shadow, and died to normal mechanics, and that's totally fine. But when you're the balanced druid, who talks so much shit, also dies to easily avoidable one-shots, only had 11 dispels even though the tank had double, as well as the second lowest healing done, as well as less overall damage than the tank, then well, I don't know what to tell you. You ain't the guy to shit on others if you're not the guy that carries others. I told the priest not to listen to his crap before pulling out and call it a day. And with that, we end our already 7th episode. Again, I know it gets old, but thank you for supporting me and watching this to the end. Even though my last video didn't get recommended to people at all, we still managed an almost 40% ratio in terms of viewers to likes, which is ridiculous. But enough with the stats. If you're still here, hit me with the G in the comments. What I didn't show you is that I also got myself a new ring crafted on almost max item level. Sadly only rank 4, but that's still mighty fine. With 431 item level and 2.2 key rating to our name, I think it's time to aim for even higher keys at this point. Yet for now, I wish you the most fantastic day whenever you see this, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.